Anuj, you deal with a lot of customers, right? And you see their demands coming from various shapes and forms in terms of as a service provider to many of larger enterprises or even some of the government organizations. What do you see as some of the path-breaking initiatives that have taken place with some of your leading customers when it comes to not just adopting technology? See, the key difference I want to bring about is this is not just about adopting technology solutions. This is about changing the way of working, right? This is about one of the earlier panel discussions talked about that there is always a balance that you have to draw between the physical security versus the employee experience. Whereas now, I think the paradigm is changing that we are saying, no, you can achieve physical security and achieve frictionless employee experience also. So is this kind of demands that you are seeing from your customers?
When I talk about something that Mr. Luthra bring up is what kind of initiatives are we talking about, or what it's not only about technology being adapted, but what actually is the final outcome. I'd say that India up until now had been a laggard in terms of technology adoption, or a client's expectation was fairly minimal in terms of what they wanted from physical security. But COVID has changed the dynamics to a greater extent, where a client says that I want to rethink or reinvent the entire workflow that I have to manage my operations better. Now, how can you bring technology on board is number one. How can you use the existing infrastructure we have to enhance our experience, and what would be the final outcome? Now, my point ends up being that that final outcome has to be something like an actionable data that I can provide to you from a technology. Now, you might have a CCTV setup in a branch, or you might have a VMS setup in a corporate structure. But the outcome that you would want to drive from it is that one, that infrastructure is sustainable and durable. You're not investing in short term, but thinking of a long term ROI. Secondly, the initiative that I am trying to ingrain, or what a client asks me, is that can I use the data that I'm getting from my visitor management system and see what kind of inflow or outflow I've been having in my corporate building, or vis-a-vis a mall, where what's an average footfall in a mall in a COVID time, where you cannot be having too many people overcrowding a location, or you need to maintain social distancing. Now, these data points, when you end up collating, you end up having an actionable data, which becomes more valuable than just saying that I have a technology in place and I want to use that to just ensure that I am compliant.
Thanks. I think that definitely is the way to go, right? How do you gather insights? And I think we'll come back to that point once again. You deliver both, right? You deliver manpower and you deliver technology solutions as well to your customers. How do you balance out the customer expectations of the manpower cost continuing to increase? Even in India, right? The minimum wages keep increasing every year. While we may say that security or manpower costs are lower in India, but I think productivity is also equally a challenge, or even reliability of the performance of the personnel. So how do you balance this pressure on reducing costs while enhancing the overall effectiveness of your security delivery?
Yes, it's a great question. So one, I think.
Sorry, Jaspreet, that was for Anuj.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah,
no problem.
No issues at all. Well, it's a very interesting piece, because it's a very fine line to say that I am going to reduce the manpower and bring in technology to complement or substitute the work a physical security personnel is doing. And you're absolutely right. Over the last 4 or 5 years, the cost of manpower in India has been going up. That could not be caught up by the budget that corporates have in order to ensure that they meet the basic guidelines. What we project, or what we suggest when Peregrine or Soteria goes to a client, is that don't think of manpower and technology as two separate entities. Think of it as a unified solution. Secondly, don't think of it as a 1-year cost or a 2-year cost. Instead, if you look at it as a 5-year or a 10-year ROI system, then you will be able to drive more benefit from technology, rather than saying that maybe that manpower is becoming expensive, but technology is still way more expensive in a country like India. So there have been instances where the client has said, no, I want to have a technology based infrastructure or platform uh, for my building or for my employees. Whereas there have been instances where we've said that you can't completely get rid of physical security. In a country like India, it will still and it will continue to play a key role for years to come. You just have to see what would be the balance in your work structure, where technology ends up adapting few of the job functions that a security personnel is doing. But moreover, the trickier part that comes in play is that till date, when we train a security personnel as a security industry in India, we have not put much of emphasis in upskilling them or educating them on technology. So you might give a security guard a very fancy tablet to say, please use this to generate reports, to collate data, but that person might not be equipped to do it. So that is where we have to tread it very carefully, that, a security guard might need to be upskilled in certain job roles, and you might replace a physical security parameter and replace it with technology.
We have heard about, let's say, a large number of service providers, right, being under pressure to leverage the same set of people, not only now for security, but cross-leveraging them for or enabling them with multiple tools. So the same security guard is now today using let's say, a temperature scanner or some of the other tools, right, to now check for COVID or check for any other things. How has been that transition? Because that is also part of let's say, in a way, a digital journey. Right now, you're enabling that same security guard to change his duty to do less of security and more of safety, let's say. How have your experience been on that regard?
Well, interestingly, this has been the case, I think, for the last 2 years now. With the onset of COVID, when the security guards were the frontline workers for large corporates and infrastructures, that is when the real worth came out, where we realized that the job that a security guard has to do is not just the basic security deterrent, but also verify if people are wearing masks, taking temperature of the people, as well as ensuring social distancing in a more basic way. I'd say it's been a very challenging environment, as companies were not equipped in terms of retraining people in terms of how to follow these processes. If you still go out in certain places, be it Delhi as well, when you go to a mall or when you go to a market, you realize that a security guard still doesn't know how to use a temperature screener. So a key role that has been highlighted here is training and training. So as long as you train a person multiple times till the time it becomes their daily chore or daily activity, it will not set in their mind in terms of what they need to do. One thing that I feel has been quite relevant here, again with the topic, has technology played catch up? This is where I would say yes, technology in physical security space has played a very good catch up in terms of meeting the expectations. So I know clients where they've said that instead of having a guard taking a temperature, I'd rather put a temperature screener there, which automates the entire process, which verifies if the employee has come to the office, is of the right temperature. In certain of our clients, has gone to an extent that if an employee is cross that temperature threshold, it is highlighted, and one of the security personnel ends up walking to that person and saying that you have a higher temperature. Can we just check if you have any other symptoms or not? Now, these are the steps where I would say technology plays a key role. But if you talk about an overall journey, the first 6 to 8 months have been very challenging in terms of having the people follow the new guidelines or the new SOPs in place. But if I talk about 2021 November now, things are very different. People are having a better awareness, be it employees or be it a security guard standing verifying.